All right, Chris Pavlovski, CEO of Rumble, my colleague and friend, and guy who built this. You mentioned something that I've mentioned on the show a couple times now, but I'd love to hear the full story around it. That Charlie actually, not only has he been deeply involved in Rumble from the beginning, and I'd love to hear how you guys started talking about that, but he found this very building for you. And so much of what Rumble does now is about Sarasota and Longboat Key and this part of Florida and freedom. And I was telling people how, you started in Canada, let's say slightly less than free. So can you talk a little bit about Charlie's connection to all of this?
Yeah, well, first, welcome to Sarasota, Longboat Key. I'll step back and kind of tell you how I even found this place first and foremost. My parents have been coming here for 20 years as Canadian snowbirds. I fell in love with it. As you can see out there, it's as beautiful as it gets. But as Rumble was like transitioning into this small company and growing very rapidly late in 2020 and early in 2021, Charlie not only, before I get to the Longboat Key story, Charlie was actually the first investor in Rumble with JD Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy, back in I think it was like April of 2021.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he was in that very, very first round, and he was out of that group, I would say by far the most active and most interested in that investment round person.
Did you know him at the time, or you met him because of the investment?
I don't exactly remember how I met him at that time, but it was probably through the investment as Rumble. Actually, I think I met him shortly after Bongino joined Rumble in late 2020. So I actually knew him a little prior to him investing. So even before the investors. And, he ended up joining that investment round back early in 2021. But the most important part was that he was like the most active investor, the one that was most interested in helping Rumble and most interested in like freeing speech as much as possible, allowing everyone to be able to have dialogue. He was adamant about that, as we already know, but he was instrumental in the building blocks of Rumble and really pushing that forward and supporting me, supporting this company to get where it was. And then that kind of like, brings me to how we ended up here. Obviously, my parents were coming here, and I fell in love with this place, and I thought it was the right place. It just felt like Florida. It was the freest state in the country in my mind, and it just felt right. And I remember Charlie telling me, he's like, I have a place in Florida in Sarasota. I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. So he ended up coming to Sarasota, and we ended up looking for offices together. That's how involved he was. He didn't need to do that. Think about this. Like, as an investor, most shareholders are just looking for returns on their investment.
Right.
And Charlie wasn't that guy. In fact, I still think, Charlie held his shares as far as I remember. I don't know for sure, but like I've had conversations with him where he told me he held his shares in the company and he never sold. So he wasn't about that return on investment like the other investors. He was in it for really helping Rumble. So we go around, we're looking at offices, we walk into this very building on this very floor, and we sit down in this like old boardroom. It was like, it had to have been done in the 70s or the 80s.
Right. I came here when it was pretty disrepair.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And we got we had a reporter harass us when you came with us here.
Yeah.
So we walk into this boardroom, and there's like tiles on the ground. The roof is falling apart. I think a hurricane just went through and it just really destroyed this building. And we're sitting in this like boardroom with these old chairs, this old wooden table, green carpets, and Charlie just looks around. And he's like, Chris, this is going to be the Rumble headquarters. This is going to be the free speech capital of the world. And I'm like, all right, we're going to do it. And I never looked back. We're now sitting in this studio in the building that Charlie helped pick. And like, I think, like I said, we've had many investors, many shareholders. Charlie was one of the few that really did it for the purpose of forwarding free speech, the actual idea of like doing something great for America. And that's where his heart was. That's why he was in this company. And that's why he helped build it with me. And he never stopped. Like we were we're meeting all the time. We were talking all the time. We're trying to figure out how to do certain things. And, he was always involved, deeply involved. And like for that, I'm forever grateful.
Yeah.
Without him, Rumble wouldn't be where it is today.
And it's important to reiterate that he wasn't like an official advisor or anything. He was really doing this because he believed in the mission and he believed what Rumble was doing. Yeah, he had some stock, but like he didn't have to be wandering around finding buildings with you or advising you or coordinating on free speech events or anything else.
Yeah, no investor's ever done that. That's not usually what you expect out of the investor, but Charlie went above and beyond. He really touched this company in a way that I don't think many people know. And you really think about it, during that time, Rumble was the only thing. There was no X, there was no Elon. Rumble was the tip of the spear for free speech. And Charlie knew that. I knew that. This company knew that. And we did something that no other company did at the time. And we stood up for that First Amendment like no other.
What do you make of the state of free speech post what has happened to Charlie now? Because obviously we were at the memorial yesterday together. There was a lot of talk. I mean, I think every single speaker said something about his love of free speech. This company is the company lead. I think it's still the spear. I mean, X has helped a lot for a lot of reasons, but there's still a lot of confusion around the algorithm there and, are things being seen and all that kind of stuff. I mean, what do you make of the general state of free speech in a time when Charlie lost his life for it? And here we are defending it, basically through a tech stack.
Yeah, I think we have to understand that free speech is always going to be under attack. The truth is always going to be under attack. People that stand for freedom and freedom of expression are going to be under attack. We have to be brave. We have to be strong, and we have to defend it. We're not gonna have free speech by just sitting around and not doing anything. We're gonna have to like fiercely defend it. And like in the aftermath of what happened to Charlie, we went through a lot of, I'm sure you, but myself, I went through a lot of different emotions in the last week or two with respect to that. And like, obviously the ABC Jimmy Kimmel thing, and I got really irritated. Like you're now seeing people talk about ABC, that they now, the Trump administration is infringing on free speech.
Yeah,
and that's just like, that's really irritating to me, because that's not what free speech is.
Right.
Let me explain what actually happened in 2021
right,
and what
exactly.
we were defending with Charlie. There were platforms like Twitter, like YouTube, that were out there parading that they were free speech platforms. Twitter said, Jack Dorsey, numerous times they're defending free speech. They were censoring political dialogue. They weren't censoring incitement of violence. They were censoring political dialogue, conversation about COVID, conversation about an election. YouTube was doing the same thing. Facebook was doing the same thing. And all these companies were parading that they were going to uphold free speech, yet they were censoring thousands, if not millions of people, millions, for sure millions of people on what they could and could not say. That's first, if you're going to parade that you're free speech, you're not free speech if you're doing that.
Where were you when it
mattered? Very simple. Yeah. But never in that moment was Fox News or CNN or any television show that's in the media. They always had the ability to change staff, always had the ability to, remove people, put other people in. And that's what ABC did.
Right.
His show's ratings were going down. They found this as an excuse to go possibly do it for that reason, or they did it for, what he said. I don't know. That's their internal, deliberations. But at the end of the day, they have they're exercising their free speech and their First Amendment rights by letting someone go on their
freedom of association
on their
is also
platform.
A thing. Yeah.
Correct. So it's not even close to what happened in 2021 when you're deplatforming a president's communication to the public. There's a big difference between Facebook and YouTube, which are means of communication to the masses. Like, if you're not online to be able to communicate to your masses, you can't communicate to your constituents. That's like denying someone buying a cell phone to go call somebody. That's that's the way I look at that. But when you're talking about a media company like ABC, who literally like censors and does whatever they want because it's their free speech to exercise whatever they want to say, that's their First Amendment right. So it was really irritating to see like every Democrat come out and say this is a violation of free speech. Meanwhile, like Fox News was removing talent left and right from their network over the last 5 years. So was CNN. So was every other company out there that's like a media company. But all of a sudden now, when a media company changes talent, that's because they didn't like what he said or because his show ratings were going down. That's now an infringement of free speech.
Did you see?
No way.
See the? There's a meme going around of what Jimmy Kimmel said when Roseanne was fired by ABC for one tweet, even though she was a hero of the left at the time. Now the left doesn't love her so much. But he basically was like, "You have a responsibility to say the right thing, and anyone can decide to hire you or fire you."
It's hypocritical, right? Like this is. I saw one with one that he did with Trump as well, and like it's just so hypocritical and it's so disingenuous. That's the part that bothers me. We actually here at Rumble, Charlie actually defended what the First Amendment really is here for and how it is to be used. And they're trying to conflate the idea of a media company changing staff to be an infringement of the First Amendment. No. It is exactly the exercising of the First Amendment to change your staff in your own entity. Every entity has its right to its own free speech, however they want to speak. And if ABC wants to speak with specific talent, they have that choice.
Contrary to what Eric Swalwell said, no one has a right to a TV show. You have a right to speak freely, but not to a TV show. So I'm going to end this with the easiest question I can possibly ask you. Can Jimmy Kimmel open an account on Rumble and do his show there?
He's welcome to open an account on Rumble and he can do his show there, but he has to stay within the terms of service, which is not incite violence.
And that's what it's all about. Good to see you, my man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.